The Enchanted Journey of Mr. Bean and Princess Sophia. In the heart of a mystical kingdom, Princess Sophia, known for her kindness and magical abilities, lived in a grand castle surrounded by lush gardens and sparkling rivers. One sunny morning, as Sophia practiced her spells in the castle courtyard, a curious sight caught her eye: a clumsy yet endearing man stumbling his way through the enchanted forest. It was Mr. Bean, who had somehow wandered into this magical realm. Sophia approached him with a warm smile. "Hello there, you must be new here. I'm Princess Sophia. How can I help you?" Mr. Bean, looking bewildered but excited, managed to convey through his gestures and a few mumbled words that he had no idea how he ended up in the kingdom and that he was looking for a way back home. Sophia, intrigued by his quirky mannerisms, decided to help him. After all, she loved adventures. "Don't worry, Mr. Bean. We'll find a way to get you home," Sophia reassured him. "But first, we must seek the wisdom of the ancient enchanted tree. It holds the answers to many mysteries." Together, they set off on a journey through the enchanted forest. Along the way, they encountered magical creatures, talking animals, fairies, and even a friendly dragon named Ember, who decided to join them on their quest. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they came across a series of challenges that tested their courage and wit. In one instance, they had to solve a riddle posed by a mischievous elf to cross a glowing bridge. With Sophia's intelligence and Mr. Bean's unexpected cleverness, they managed to find the right answer and continued their journey. Finally, they arrived at the enchanted tree, an ancient and wise entity that radiated a calming golden light. Sophia explained their situation, and the tree responded with a gentle, echoing voice. "To return Mr. Bean to his world, you must find the crystal of passage hidden in the Cave of Whispers. It is a perilous journey, but with bravery and friendship you will succeed." Sophia and Mr. Bean, along with Ember, made their way to the Cave of Whispers. The cave was dark and filled with eerie sounds, but Sophia's magic provided light and courage. Deep inside the cave, they found the crystal of passage guarded by a shadowy figure. It turned out to be a guardian who tested their hearts. Recognizing their pure intentions and strong bond, the guardian allowed them to take the crystal. With the crystal in hand, they returned to the enchanted tree, which used its magic to open a portal to Mr. Bean's world. Before he stepped through, Mr. Bean thanked Sophia and gave her a small, quirky gift, a teddy bear named Teddy, his cherished companion. "Thank you, Princess Sophia. I'll never forget this adventure," Mr. Bean said, his eyes twinkling with gratitude. Sophia smiled warmly. "And I won't forget you, Mr. Bean. Remember, you're always welcome in my kingdom." With a final wave, Mr. Bean stepped through the portal, returning to his world. Sophia, Ember, and their new friends watched as the portal closed, feeling a sense of accomplishment and joy from their adventure. From that day on, the tale of Mr. Bean and Princess Sophia's enchanted adventure was told throughout the kingdom, inspiring others to embrace courage, kindness, and the magic of friendship. And so, Mr. Bean and Princess Sophia's magical and fantasy adventure came to a delightful end, leaving both worlds forever changed by their remarkable journey. Mr. Bean and the Mona Lisa Mystery. Mr. Bean decides to visit the famous Louvre Museum in Paris. Dressed in his usual brown tweed jacket and skinny red tie, he shuffles through the crowded halls, eager to see the world-famous Mona Lisa. His curiosity is piqued as he sees a long line of people waiting to get a glimpse of the masterpiece. When it's finally his turn, Mr. Bean stands before the Mona Lisa, mesmerized. He tilts his head left and right, trying to understand why the painting is so famous. He even mimics her enigmatic smile, but it doesn't seem quite right. Frustrated but intrigued, he decides to learn more about the painting. Mr. Bean sneaks into a restricted area of the museum, finding himself in the archives. He pulls out various books and old documents about the Mona Lisa. As he reads, his eyes widen with each fact: the mystery of her smile, the theory that she might have been pregnant, and even conspiracy theories about hidden messages. Determined to uncover the secrets of the Mona Lisa, Mr. Bean dons a disguise to avoid getting caught by the museum staff. He dresses as a French detective, complete with a beret and a fake mustache. Using a magnifying glass, he inspects every inch of the painting. Suddenly, he notices something odd: a tiny, almost invisible smudge in the corner of the painting. Convinced he's made a groundbreaking discovery, Mr. Bean decides to clean the smudge. He pulls out a handkerchief and starts rubbing the painting gently. To his horror, the smudge spreads and an alarm blares. Security rushes in, and Mr. Bean is apprehended. In the security office, Mr. Bean tries to explain his actions with exaggerated gestures and mimes. The museum director, a stern woman with glasses, initially scolds him. But when Mr. Bean shows his detailed notes and his genuine curiosity, she softens and explains that the smudge was part of the painting's natural aging process. As a gesture of goodwill, the museum director gives Mr. Bean a private tour of the museum. He learns more about art and gains a deeper appreciation for the Mona Lisa. He even gets a special souvenir, a tiny replica of the painting. Mr. Bean leaves the museum with a newfound respect for art and a big smile on his face. As he walks down the streets of Paris, he proudly shows off his Mona Lisa replica to passers-by, occasionally stopping to mimic her iconic smile. The credits roll with a montage of Mr. Bean trying to replicate famous artworks in his own quirky style, leaving everyone laughing and entertained. Fog-bound magic, Sophia and Mr. Bean's quest. On a misty morning, Sophia wandered deeper into the forest than ever before. The fog was thick, curling around the trees like spectral fingers. As she walked, she noticed a flickering light in the distance and moved toward it. Soon she stumbled upon an ancient stone archway, half hidden by vines and mist. Curiosity piqued, Sophia stepped through the archway and into a mystical realm where the air shimmered with magic. The trees seemed alive, their leaves whispering secrets. Suddenly, a strange noise broke the eerie silence, a honking horn followed by a crash. Rushing toward the sound, Sophia found a man with a tweed jacket and a red tie tangled in the branches of a particularly grumpy-looking tree. It was none other than Mr. Bean. He had somehow ended up in this magical forest, and his tiny green car, now stuck in the mud, was the source of the crash. Sophia helped Mr. Bean untangle himself from the branches. As soon as he was free, he looked around with his usual mix of confusion and curiosity. Sophia introduced herself and asked how he had ended up there. Mr. Bean shrugged and pulled out a small, glowing stone from his pocket. "I found this and followed it," he explained, his voice unusually serious for a moment. Sophia examined the stone, recognizing it as a magical artifact she had read about in an old book. It was said to lead its holder to whatever they desired most. Just then, the stone began to glow brighter, pulling them both towards a hidden path. Together, they followed the path, which led them to a magnificent castle made of crystal and silver. The castle shimmered in the fog, its towers reaching up to the sky. As they approached, the gates swung open, revealing a grand hall filled with fantastical creatures, talking animals, fairies, and even a dragon lounging by the fireplace. At the center of the hall stood a regal figure, the queen of the enchanted forest. She welcomed Sophia and Mr. Bean, explaining that the stone had brought them to her because they were needed, to break a curse that had been cast upon the land. The fog that enveloped the forest was part of the curse, trapping its inhabitants and draining their magic. Sophia and Mr. Bean listened attentively as the queen described the task ahead. They had to find the source of the curse, a dark sorcerer hiding in the heart of the forest, and defeat him to lift the fog. The queen handed Sophia a shimmering sword and Mr. Bean a magical map that would guide them. They faced mischievous sprites, tricky puzzles, and enchanted creatures that tested their bravery and wit. Mr. Bean's clumsiness often led to humorous situations, but his good heart and Sophia's determination saw them through each trial. Finally, they reached the sorcerer's lair, a dark, twisted tower surrounded by swirling fog. With courage and cleverness, Sophia and Mr. Bean confronted the sorcerer. Using the magical stone and the sword, they managed to break his dark spells and defeat him. As the sorcerer fell, the fog began to lift, and sunlight poured into the forest, bringing life and color back to the enchanted realm. The queen and her subjects rejoiced, thanking Sophia and Mr. Bean for their bravery. With the curse broken, the magical stone glowed one last time, creating a portal to take Sophia and Mr. Bean back home. They stepped through, finding themselves back in the familiar forest, the stone archway now just a simple ruin. Sophia and Mr. Bean shared a smile, knowing they would never forget their incredible adventure in the enchanted forest. And from that day on, the misty mornings in the village always seemed a little more magical. Mr. Bean and the Dragon Eggs, Chapter 2. A very strange morning. Mr. Bean woke up one morning to the sound of something scratching at his door. Rubbing his eyes, he stumbled out of bed and shuffled to the door, half expecting to find his mischievous Teddy Bear playing a prank. Instead, he was greeted by an enormous dragon egg, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. "Well, this is peculiar," Mr. Bean muttered to himself, scratching his head. He carefully picked up the egg and brought it inside, placing it on his kitchen table. With a mix of curiosity and clumsiness, he began examining the egg, tapping it gently with a spoon. Suddenly, the egg started to crack, and before Mr. Bean could react, a baby dragon hatched right before his eyes. The little dragon looked up at Mr. Bean with big, curious eyes, letting out a tiny roar. Mr. Bean's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, hello there. I suppose you're hungry?" He rummaged through his kitchen, pulling out various foods to offer the dragon. The little creature turned its nose up at most of them, but it seemed particularly interested in the tin of baked beans. Over the next few days, Mr. Bean and the baby dragon, whom he named Draco, became inseparable. Draco's playful antics and magical abilities led to a series of hilarious and chaotic adventures. From trying to hide Draco from nosy neighbors to attempting to teach the dragon to fly in the park, Mr. Bean found himself in one ridiculous situation after another. However, not all was fun and games. A group of bumbling dragon hunters soon caught wind of Draco's existence and set their sights on capturing him. Mr. Bean had to use all his wit and creativity to protect his new friend, leading to a series of comical chases and slapstick showdowns. In the end, Mr. Bean managed to outsmart the hunters and ensure Draco's safety. Realizing that Draco needed to be with his own kind, Mr. Bean reluctantly said goodbye, watching as the dragon flew off into the horizon. With a heavy heart, he returned to his quiet life, forever changed by his extraordinary adventure. As he sat down with his teddy bear, Mr. Bean couldn't help but smile, thinking about the incredible journey he had just experienced. "Well, Teddy, that was certainly something," he said, giving his bear a gentle hug. "Who knows what tomorrow will bring?" Mr. Bean and the Dragon Queen's Wings, Chapter 3. Once upon a time, in a quaint little town, lived Mr. Bean. One sunny morning, as he was tidying up his tiny apartment, he stumbled upon an old, dusty book hidden under a loose floorboard. The cover read, "The Secrets of Flight." Curious, Mr. Bean opened the book and found an ancient recipe for a potion that granted wings to whoever drank it. Excited, he gathered the unusual ingredients: a feather from a swan, a drop of morning dew, and a sprinkle of moon dust. After mixing them together, he took a hesitant sip. Suddenly, he felt a tingling sensation on his back. To his amazement, a pair of magnificent wings sprouted. Filled with glee, Mr. Bean flapped his new wings and soared out of his window, high into the sky. As he flew over the countryside, he noticed a beautiful valley with a crystal-clear lake. Descending to take a closer look, he was startled to see a magnificent dragon perched by the water. But this was no ordinary dragon. She had shimmering, jewel-like scales and an aura of majesty. She was the Dragon Queen. The Dragon Queen looked up, and instead of roaring or breathing fire, she smiled warmly. "Welcome, Mr. Bean," she said. "I've been waiting for someone with a pure heart to share this secret place with." Mr. Bean, though usually bumbling and awkward, felt a surge of confidence. With his wings, he spent the day flying alongside the Dragon Queen, exploring hidden waterfalls and lush forests, and even playing games in the sky. As the sun set, the Dragon Queen told Mr. Bean, "Your wings will last until the moon is at its highest tonight. Use this time wisely and remember the joy of flight." With a grateful heart, Mr. Bean thanked the Dragon Queen and continued his aerial adventures. He flew over mountains, danced with birds, and even painted shapes in the clouds. As midnight approached, he returned to his apartment, landing gently on his balcony. As promised, his wings disappeared when the moon reached its peak. Although he was back to being ordinary Mr. Bean, he would never forget the magical day he spent flying with the Dragon Queen. From that day on, whenever Mr. Bean looked up at the sky, he smiled, remembering the incredible adventure he had with his temporary wings and the Dragon Queen. Mr. Bean and the Infinite Tapestry of Mirrors. In a hidden corner of the world, deep within an ancient forest, lies a secret so profound that only a few have ever glimpsed it, a place known as the Infinite Tapestry of Mirrors. This is no ordinary tapestry. It is a living, breathing web of countless mirrors, each reflecting not just light, but the very essence of time, memories, and dreams. One day, Mr. Bean, With his quirky curiosity, an unintentional knack for stumbling into the most peculiar situations, finds himself lost during a hike in the countryside. While chasing a butterfly far off the beaten path, he stumbles upon an overgrown archway covered in ivy. Intrigued, he pushes through the foliage and discovers a hidden grove where the light dances in strange hypnotic patterns. At the center of this grove stands a grand circular tapestry woven entirely of mirrors, some cracked, some pristine, all shimmering with an otherworldly glow. As Mr. Bean approaches the tapestry, he notices that each mirror reflects not just his current image, but various versions of himself from different times, his childhood, his most embarrassing moments, and even glimpses of a future yet to come. Fascinated, he begins to play with his reflection, pulling faces and striking poses. But as he does, he realizes that the mirrors are more than mere reflections. They show him the paths his life could have taken, the roads not traveled, and the choices that shaped his destiny. The tapestry begins to shift and change, revealing a mirror that shows Mr. Bean an alternate life where he made different decisions. One where he became a famous artist, another where he was a scientist, and yet another where he found true love and settled down. Each mirror shows a different version of happiness, a different kind of fulfillment. But with each vision, Mr. Bean feels a deep sense of unease. Could these reflections be more than just images? Could they be doors to other realities? As Mr. Bean contemplates the tapestry, he realizes that while the alternate versions of himself are intriguing, they are not who he truly is. He understands that his life, with all its quirks, mistakes, and funny moments, is uniquely his own. The tapestry may show him what could have been, but it also teaches him to appreciate the life he has lived, the joy, the laughter, and even the absurdity of it all. With a newfound appreciation for his own life, Mr. Bean turns away from the tapestry and retraces his steps out of the grove. As he leaves, the mirrors slowly fade, their light dimming until they are nothing more than reflections of the forest around them. The grove returns to its peaceful state, hidden from the world once more. Mr. Bean continues his hike, a smile on his face and a spring in his step, grateful for the journey that brought him to the infinite tapestry of mirrors and the lesson it revealed, that the most precious reflection is the one found within ourselves.